So I've been working on this book that's really about practice, and that's the subject tonight. So I thought I'd just read a little bit from the beginning of the book, because what I want to talk about later, practice, it might be a bit technical. I don't know. We'll see where it goes. But I thought I would set the stage by reading a little bit from the beginning of this book about why it's titled Lighting the Sacred Fire. And then we'll meditate as usual and then have a chat. Fire has held a special place in people's lives for as long as humans have been humans. Fire touches upon the most practical daily endeavors of survival, and it reaches up to the most exalted visions, thoughts, and conceptions. From Vedic fire traditions going back 4,000 years to the Paschal candle lit on the Easter Vigil, sacred fire has been a symbol of humanity's connection to the divine. As we warm ourselves by the fire, we sit at the hearth of life-sustaining heat. As we gather near a fire, the flames, sparks, and smoke reach up toward the mystery of the heavens, and if we follow them, so do our minds and our hearts. Fire has become a symbol of life itself and our greatest spiritual endeavors. Our traditions are filled with fire images. Agni, the Vedic fire god, carries prayers to the other gods. Prometheus delivered fire from the gods to mankind. God appears to Moses as fire in the burning bush. The disciples of Christ were identified by flames that appeared above their heads. Fire is the flame behind the Sacred Heart. Fire is the luminous consciousness of the Buddhas. Fire is the warmth of the Great Spirit. Fire is the light of the cosmos, and so on. Our languages are filled with fire metaphors. In the mind, it burns as desire. In the body, it burns as passion. In the heart, it burns as longing. But fire also dispels evil and ignorance. It purifies, transforms, and enlightens. So ultimately, it can burn as wisdom in the mind, as luminosity in the body, and as love in the heart. When in the course of our lives we hear such a transformation is possible, that confusion can become wisdom, that anger can become clarity, that suffering can become peace, that ignorance can become enlightenment, a spark is kindled. When we hear this good news, a fire is lit right in the midst of our lives. And this fire is the burning heart of our spiritual journey. This desire for truth alone, this passion for reality laid bare, this longing for God, this sacred fire is the engine of our inquiry, our prayer, and our practice. Let's meditate. Speaking of practice. So sit upright, good posture, inhale and exhale through the nose. For a few breaths on the inhale, go ahead and just stretch yourself any way that feels good. On the inhale and on the exhale, relax. Again, just stretch on the inhale. On the exhale, relax. Inhale, stretch. Exhale, relax. Inhale, stretch. Exhale, relax. And just start to settle into your meditation posture. Inhale. Exhale. Now, on each inhale, bring your attention to any mental or emotional stress that has been with you or accumulated throughout the day. See it clearly in your awareness as you inhale. And on the exhale, let that stress fall away. Again, inhale and exhale. Inhale, exhale. Good. Now turn your attention to any bodily sensations, the feel of your clothes, the shifting pressures in your torso as you breathe, the weight of your limbs, the weight of your hands. Now see if you can feel the blood pulsing in your hands. If you can feel it in your hands, see if you can feel that pulse somewhere else in your body. And see if you can feel that pulse throughout the whole body. Turn your attention to any sense of taste or smell. Shift your attention to the whole field of sound. Notice all the little sounds as they come into your awareness. Shift your attention to the whole of the visual field. There's no need to focus on anything in particular. Just see the whole field of vision. Include your body in that field of vision. Now allow all these different phenomena, sensations, tastes, smells, sounds, and vision to exist in one field of awareness. Allow whatever thoughts or emotions may arise to exist also in this same field of awareness. And allow whatever appears or disappears to come and go freely, without judgment, grasping, or resistance. As you come out of the meditation, don't rush. and take note of how you feel. If there's any measure of peace, calm, clarity, remember this feeling, how you got there, and carry it into your everyday life. And I want to welcome Andy. Hey, Andy, are you there?
I'm here. Hey, Matt. Thanks for welcoming
Yeah, yeah.
me.
So Andy's an old friend of mine, high school friend, and we just touched base last week. So yeah, it's great to see you here. Um, okay, so as promised, the topic tonight is about practice. And as I said, I don't know if this is going to feel a bit like a college lecture or something. We'll see how we can spice it up. But to begin with, I'd like to just say, maybe clarify what I mean by practice. Everybody has their own idea of what maybe their practice is or what it entails, or their own idea of what spiritual practice is. And when I'm talking about practice now and in this book, for example, my idea of it is very broad. And those of you, if you've read When You Are Silent, It Speaks, you probably saw this diagram. I'll see if I can share it on my screen here. How do I do that? Share screen. Okay, here we go. Can everybody see that? This diagram, can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, we.
Okay. So the point of showing this is really just to illustrate how broad I view spiritual practice. So I've kind of, as you can see, I've divided it. There's all of these kind of technical elements that if you're interested in it, you can kind of interpret the diagram or read the book and understand it. There's sort of an internal, external axis and a directional axis, inward and outward. And on this sort of uh, plot, I've put four kind of primary paths: knowledge, devotion, action, and skill. And then, as you can see, I've written in a whole bunch of different well-known practices like meditation, inquiry, charity, worship, asceticism, prayer, artistry, and so on. So all of these things I view as potentially, not necessarily, but potentially could constitute a spiritual practice. So the view of it is very broad. And that's great because I think for different people at different points in their lives, they require different practices. Every person's mind and their heart is like a puzzle. And in order to sort of piece that puzzle together or take it apart, depending on how you look at it, in order to sort of unlock all that, you need all of these different, well, you don't necessarily need all these different practices, but potentially a person could need this or that or this in order to sort something out in themselves and in their lives. And so, at least in my life, a lot of these practices were helpful to me at one point and another for various reasons. And they came and went in and out of my life according to what was needed. And so, the scope of practice is very broad. And in fact, I go so far as to say really the whole of our lives is a spiritual practice. But in general, when we're talking about practice, just it can be a broad range of activities, especially if you approach it with the intention of spiritual practice. So with that being said, so the other thing I want to talk about is that there's a well-known paradox about practice. And the way I've heard it expressed is that practice is necessary, but it will never work. It won't get you there. And another way to put this is that reality itself is free and effortless. And yet we still have to make an effort to fully realize it. Why is that? How does that make sense? If it's already there, if it's already completely present, why would we need to practice? And to my way of thinking, it's not as much of a paradox as it first appears to be. I think that it appears to be a paradox because of the way that we think about practice and what we think practice is going to do for us. So, for example, we may think at some point in our life, I know I did, that that practice like meditation or something is going to get us there. That's by doing that, I will master this meditation skill and be able to, I don't know, whatever you think you're going to do by doing that. And because we think of it that way, that we're going to get somewhere, that's why it appears as a paradox. But in reality, that's not really what practice is for. It isn't to get us somewhere. It isn't to accomplish something or to master something. Instead, I would say that practice is fundamentally to help remove obstacles, to help clarify and lift the veil of delusion and confusion that obscures this ever-present reality. So if you think about it that way, it's not really a paradox that that practice can't get you there. But it can help remove obstacles. It can help clarify how you see things. It can help dispel your views. And for that reason, it's necessary. If there's anything obscuring the truth, then practice is helpful and important if on the path. So we can learn all kinds of interesting things and have extraordinary experiences along the way, but the ultimate function of practice is not to teach us anything. And that's because the truth itself is not an idea. It's not a trick. It's not any state. It's not a trait or an attribute. And it's not an experience either. Although, of course, all these things are possible and in fact are happening all the time. We may have many experiences. We may experience many different states. But the truth isn't anything in particular. And practice is helpful for dispelling us of that idea. I wanted to talk about an example, and the example I want to give is of a magic trick. Let's say, imagine you saw an amazing magic trick. Not only did you see it and were completely amazed, but you also believed that there was some kind of real magic at work. How could this be possible, this amazing miracle that you've seen? And so you ask the magician, let's say, how it's done. How did you do this amazing feat? Let's say it made something disappear or appear. How is this possible? How do I do this magic? And he says, okay, well, come back later and I'll show you. After the crowd has left, you go up on the stage and he shows you how the trick is done. And when he shows you, it's obvious that it's not magic at all. It's sleight of hand, or there's, some mirrors or a veil or something that makes the trick work, that makes it appear as if something has appeared or disappeared. In other words, it's an illusion. And so you think, oh, well, that's not real magic at all. It's just an illusion. Anyone can learn to do that. And so you go about looking for another example. And you maybe travel all over watching lots of different magicians, and each one that demonstrates to you a better trick, you say, show me how it's done. And they show you, and it's an illusion. And see, if you just kept doing this, if you did it enough to your own satisfaction, you would start to conclude that that all of these magicians were just illusionists, and that there was no real magic. And if you dispelled this idea enough, you might see that actually everything is magic. That everything we experience is, in a way, magical, beyond explanation. A kind of miracle that you're even here to see a magician and to go on this quest. And, another example, because everyone knows it so well, is the story of the Buddha's path. Because he went through many different practices. He did, if you read the story of the Buddha, at least the way I know it, or heard it, he went to a number of different teachers. They taught him how to meditate, how to go into different types of samadhi, amazing states. And he mastered all of these things, but he was never satisfied. He would master the most advanced samadhis, I don't know, the samadhi of incorporeal wisdom, and he would master that. And then he would say, well, that's great, but that's not what I'm looking for, And he would go to the next teacher and do that again, the samadhi of ever-present illumination or whatever it was. And he would be able to go into this state, but he would say, that's great, but I'm not satisfied. And so he kept looking. And then he did, the ascetic practices in the forest and starved himself and, slept outside in the elements, but nothing worked. Nothing satisfied. And so you can see that practice is a kind of, in a way, a process of elimination. We have certain ambitions certain ideas that we have about where we're going and what we need to do to get there. And some of these ambitions, there's no other way to dispel you of them than to actually practice and go through the practice and see those things for yourself and see if they satisfy you. And so in a way, there's no real shortcuts. Even if you know this, even if somebody tells you, that practice is just a way of dispelling delusions. It's a process of elimination. Even if somebody tells you this, there's still no way around it. You actually have to look. You can't just take somebody's word for it. Because if you just take somebody's word for it, it will just be another story. And only if you look for yourself, then you can see what's real, what isn't, what's lasting, what isn't, what's impermanent, what's permanent. So in the midst of our past, effort is always needed. We have to engage in this process and see it through to the end, just like life. And the path may seem short or long, direct or circuitous, but really only by following it one way or another do we discover effortlessly where we've been all along.
Okay, Matt, let's pause here and get out of the lecture mode and get into the question mode. Who's got a question? All right, Jess.
Well, thank you. That was, I'm enjoying actually the lecture. It seems more like a.
Well, that was the end of it. So that's a good place to stop.
I love the learning, and maybe it's sort of embedded in there, but I wondered about the word gratitude as a practice, or I saw kindness, and but what your process around
absolutely,
including that or not, or
absolutely. I mean, we could, you can talk about where would that I think I lost the diagram. Anyway, if you look at the diagram, you could think about where would gratitude fit in to this kind of practice. It's a very it's an internal practice, but in a way it's directed outward toward the world. And so, in the diagram, it would be up in the kind of the devotional area. But just generally speaking, as a practice, gratitude's a wonderful practice, and so, then it becomes like, how can one practice gratitude? It's not complicated, you just have to set aside time to practice it, to really consider and meditate upon how grateful you really are. And then expand that gratitude to, larger and larger spheres of awareness until it fills everything, really. Complete gratitude. Yeah.
David.
Thank you. I have two comments and then a question. My first comment is, Matthew, I want to thank you for your initial reading on fire. That was really brilliant, and I really appreciated it. So thank you.
Buy the book when it comes out.
Okay. Hey, I just want to make this comment about gratitude as well. I think there's the other side is to keep it super simple and just don't miss. Try to capture moments throughout the day. Just stop and just this moment right now. Just be aware of all the blessings
Yeah.
that are happening right now and the magic in front of you right now. And if you can capture that even for a couple seconds, 20 times throughout the day, it definitely helps offset life's challenges and the hard stuff that we hit.
Yeah.
So it's, so we can meditate on it and do a big thing on gratitude, which is great. But I think also a real simple practice is to not miss the moment. If we can kind of just wake up throughout the day and appreciate the magic right in front of us at all times. So here,
Yeah,
oh, sorry. I have a question for you too, by the way, but you can.
yeah, let me just say about that this is true of all practice. When we start any particular practice, we get interested in it and we start doing it, whatever it may be. And we think about it as something discrete that we're doing. Gratitude practice. I do it in the morning and I do it in the evening, or go to church. I do it on Sunday, or we think about these things when we get into them as something discrete that we're doing. But part of all practices is to start to again bring it into all areas of your life. That's why, after the meditations, I always say, take note of this, how you feel, this sensation, and start to do this meditation continuously throughout your life. And same is true with gratitude. The more you start to feel continuous gratitude, uninterrupted, and things like gratitude or compassion begin to inform your activities, inform your thoughts, inform your actions. And so that's a huge part of practice, is starting to let it spread everywhere. What's your question?
It makes you happier too, which is
Yeah.
a nice offspring of that.
For sure.
You're happy. Well, my question has to do with concentration. It's something in my practice. I've been at it so long, and I feel I consistently feel I just have to deepen my concentration. So can you just speak to the importance of concentration in the practice? Or maybe the illusion of concentration, whatever.
Yeah, no, it's huge.
But a real question about just the ability to really concentrate.
It's actually foundational, in practice. In Buddhism, for example, I've been informed that the methodology for practice starts with ethics. Then the next part is concentration. Then comes wisdom. So it's really foundational. And in my way of thinking, this is another diagram that some of you may have seen from When You're Silent, It Speaks. And so in my way of thinking about practices, all practices, whatever they are, they contain these 4 modes or 4 elements: focusing, observing, manipulating, and emptying. And focusing is the first kind of layer. It's absolutely essential. If you can't, if you have, for example, we'll just use meditation as an example because it's a great example. If you can't sit there for 5 minutes or 10 minutes and focus your attention, it becomes very hard to do the rest of anything else in meditation. It becomes hard, for example, to watch your thoughts if you can't keep your attention on your thoughts. It becomes hard to watch your breath if you can't keep your attention on your breath. So the developing focus is like a core principle.
So for me, it comes up and it dovetails with, for me, which could be other people maybe can resonate with this or not. It dovetails with worthiness for me. Like I'll get really deep and then somehow I'm still struggling with feeling worthy enough to take another layer of consciousness, another layer of Grace.
Well, that's a letting go issue. See, you know, it says, you know, focusing, observing, manipulating, and emptying. So the last part is emptying, and practice happens in a kind of spiral fashion. So once you go through, you know, once you learn a little bit of focusing, then you can start to look and see, well, what's really there? You can start to look at all the different parts of your experience or all your different things you're aware of. And then you can start to kind of turn them over and look underneath them and move them around and shuffle them about. And that may reveal all different kinds of things, but at the end, you have to let go of it all. You have to clear the slate. And so if you feel in your practice that you have, you lack worthiness, that's just a thought. And you have to learn to let go of this thought. And when you let go of it, then you can start to develop a deeper focus. Because that thought's no longer in the way.
Thank you. Got it. It's helpful. Thank you.
Other questions?
I was
Yeah,
just
go,
gonna-
Mark. Just to let folks know, I don't have everyone on my screen. So just, you know, when there's a pause, just speak out, please.
Yeah, I was just going to say it along those lines, a helpful meditation practice, if you have these kind of things that pop up in practice that seem to be inhibiting you, a helpful practice is noting. So just note, for example, when that comes up, well, that's just a thought. And then return your attention to whatever meditation you're doing or to nothing. And if an emotion comes up attached to that, that's just an emotion. Let go of it and return your attention to your meditation. It's a way of kind of dismissing things. That's not important. Yeah.
Mark.
Hi, I'm taking notes. I thought I'd briefly share that there was a play that was at the Oregon Contemporary Theater a couple months ago called Brilliant Things. And it was a true story. It's a true story of the playwright's life, where his mother was sort of suicidal and depressive, and eventually she did commit suicide. And as a kid, he wanted to try and cheer her up or help her in some way. And he didn't know how to do it. So he started recording everything in his life that seemed to him awesome. And it could be like the littlest things, like that flavor when you bite into an orange and it goes squirt, or when you stir the coffee and the milk makes a swirl, or the sound of thunder, like everything. And over his life, he did over 1 million. He just observed all these things that he thought, this is just so awesome about life. And he would write them down and give them to her, thinking, okay, well, surely this will make her feel better, which it didn't. But watching this play was almost like, Matt, how you'll say after meditation, like, feel it, get a taste of it, remember how this feels, and you can bring that into your life. That play kind of gave me that a little bit, just like, wow, really, all you have to do is like look. It's not like it's all obscure. It's just we just don't look. It was really such a lovely way of getting that, like,
yeah.
All at once. And I'll say one more quick thing, just relatedly, in one of the readings I'm doing in our Center for Sacred Sciences group, this was an article by Lama Makransky. I think he's a Canadian guy, but he's a Tibetan Lama now. And this one piece is specifically about how all through our lives, we've been loved and cared for and nourished in a way that we just sort of take for granted or don't remember. But so the instruction is like, think back to when you had that favorite teacher or that meal your grandmother made you or whatever it was. And it's like, there it was. You were loved and they were seeing who you were and just giving to you for the sake of it, not because they wanted something for it. And if you look at your life now, you can see it too. It's happening all the time. We just don't register stuff. So I was thinking when you said, like, what does a practice of gratitude look like? And then it's like, well, open your eyes, dude. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's great. And yeah, again, the more you do it, the more you see it. See, you start to see it everywhere. You know, you start to see that everything is awesome. And yeah.
Well, I'm gonna push back on that just a little bit. Just I know because
That's
you
fine.
you already know what I'm gonna say, I'm sure. But sometimes there's certain things in life that don't seem awesome. They seem actually anti-awesome. And whether or not they're awesome or not, I think the practice of gratitude and the practice for looking for the awesome things is certainly a counterbalancing measure to those things that might otherwise drag me down. It's like, yeah, that's true, or maybe it's not true, but whatever it is, there's life itself, which is probably indescribably awesome. So,
yeah, and you know, you can be, for example, grateful for your ability to have compassion for others. That's awesome. Grateful for the ability to love others or help others. That's awesome. So even around things that seem negative, there are awesome possibilities, awesome opportunities. Yeah.
Thanks.
But thanks for pushing back. Yeah. I understand. Yeah.
I know you can take it.
Yeah.
Mark, by the way, your cat looks very enlightened.
Yeah.
You know, we have, I think I've mentioned our other cat, Taco, TTAO, the black one, who's really very Buddha-like, and he's the one. And it's only now, this is the first time she's ever done this. In the last 2 days, I've had her to sit on my chest, and she slept on me last night. She's kind of anxious, and slowly, I'm kind of doing all these things to try and get her to just go, it's okay, it's okay. And she doesn't know it. Like I'll take her, I'll put her on my chest, and she'll go, oh, okay. Yeah, she just doesn't know. This is the first time she's ever done this. I was like, come
Doesn't
on.
look anxious now. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a good day, didn't we? Yeah. Leela, as in the dance off.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very beautiful.
Yeah, she's gorgeous. She's so gorgeous. Aren't you? Yes, you are. All right. We can move on.
So yeah, any other questions about maybe any problems people have in their practice? Or
I'll throw one at you, Matthew, but maybe not personal, but you've talked to many people and advised them. What is the most common obstacle? And what do you recommend to help a person overcome that obstacle?
wow. And the most common obstacle is a whole topic in and of itself. I thought maybe we'd talk about that next month, but let's go into it. You know, there's lots of general common obstacles like fear, for example, or lack of discipline, or but I would say, you know, the most fundamental obstacle that applies across the board is looking for something particular. Is thinking that what you're looking for is something. And I'll give some examples so you have an idea what I mean. On the path of knowledge, for example, philosophy or self-inquiry or trying to figure out what the heck is going on, right? The biggest obstacle there is conceptualization. We seek to turn the truth itself into an idea, into a concept or a worldview, so that the mind can understand it. And what we end up doing is just turning it into an idea, a thought, a concept. And that's not what it is. And so, but because our mind habitually is focused on things, right? That's how we make sense of everything, is by dividing it up into things, seeing the relationships between them, how they interact, and so on. And so that's how we're used to working. If we ask a question about the relative world, like, where is the bathroom? This is a great way of thinking, and it works very well. But if we ask, what is the fundamental nature of reality? Or if we ask, who am I? What am I? Fundamentally, this kind of thinking doesn't really work. And it, however you go about it, whatever answer you come up with conceptually, it won't satisfy you, because it could always be overturned. You'll come up with a new idea or a new concept, or somebody. So that's how you mistake something for nothing, or something particular for the all-encompassing is what you're really looking for. In religion, this same exact problem appears as idolatry, where you mistake something in the world for God. And it's very subtle. Same with conceptualization. It's very subtle. It's not, it's a mistake of the mind and the heart, where you try to take something that's limitless, something that really isn't a thing at all, and you try to turn it into a thing, make an idol out of it. And in the path of action, for example, let's say your practice is charity or kindness, it appears as hypocrisy. And in the path of action, it appears as egoism. In other words, thinking that you are the possessor of your abilities, your thoughts, your ideas, your intellect, and the sort of the repository of any knowledge or skill that you happen to have. And so in this case, you mistake the ego for the truth. So there's different ways this fundamental mistake appears, but it appears all over the place. Was somebody going to say something, a question there?
I was just curious, if you are conditioned by fear, how can you let that go?
It's a process, First, you have to start to become aware of how afraid you are. It can be a big realization to realize just how afraid you are and how afraid you are of how much fear you hold, and that comes up in different situations, because we tend to cover it up or suppress it, in order to deal with it. But if we really want to, I'm not going to say get rid of it. I'm going to say transcend it. Then we have to be willing to look at it. And so the way I describe it, if you've read my book, what I do when I describe processing negativity, it's the same process. So when the fear arises, the first thing you have to do is just be able to be with it. And so the primary practice there is to focus on breathing. Just breathe and be with the fear. It's already there. So just breathe. And use your breathing to calm yourself down. If you happen to be freaking out, if you get really afraid, you can start to freak out. So use breathing to calm yourself down. The next step is just accepting that you're afraid. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no shame in it. And there's no need to push it away. Just be okay with being afraid. And the third step is to just look directly at it. They're all intertwined, right? Each thing helps us to do the other thing. And when we look directly at it, two things are possible. One, we can see, what are we really afraid of? And sometimes when we see what we're really afraid of, we realize, oh, it's really not all that scary. And we can let go of the fear. And the other thing that can happen, which is even deeper, is that you can realize, if you can perceive your fear, then that's not what you are. It's just a phenomenon. It's just a thought connected to sensations in the body, connected to emotions, and there's this whole chain of connected to thoughts about the future, what will happen now, what's going to happen then. It's just a whole chain of thoughts gets set off in motion. And if you can see those thoughts, if you can hold them up and look at them, it's not fundamentally what you are. You're the seer of those thoughts, the perceiver of those fears. And if you can see that clearly, you're freed from your fear. It may still be there, but you'll be free of it.
It's very helpful. Thank you.
So Matthew, I wanted to go back to what you started off your answer with, which for me, it was something like, we have an expectation in our practice of what we expect the outcome to be, what we expect enlightenment or awakening or non-dual experience or God realization. And so we keep practicing and looking for that particular outcome.
Right, right.
And when in fact, when whatever that change is going to be, that outcome we were looking for is certainly not it. So the barrier, the obstacle, the obscuration is in our mind, that expectation that we set forth for ourselves. And we can't see what we're really looking for, because what we're really looking for is not what we think it is.
Right, because you think you're looking for something you're not looking for. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's just another way of saying that you've mistaken a thought for the reality. You've mistaken your own thought, your own idea of what you thought you were looking for the reality. And it's very clear, it's in a way, it's easy to dispel this. Think about it. If what you were looking for was a thought, and you have this thought, why would you even be looking for it? See, you already know the thought. You have to see. So what I'm saying is, you have to allow for the unknown.
I think we've had so many descriptions from other masters, awakened people, that have told us, oh, it's bliss, oh, it's this, oh, it's that we say, oh, well, I'm not achieving anything until I have an experience like that one.
It's true, but they also say it's beyond words. It's indescribable. It's all encompassing. It can't be named. It can't be conceptualized. So you have to listen to that too.
Right.
So you have to, balance when they say it's bliss, it's this, it's that. You'll also have to hear in the back, it's nothing that can be named. It's nothing that can be conceptualized. And until you find that nothing, you keep looking. That's what I mean when I say it's not anything particular. It's not anything we could think of or conceive of. And yeah, surely, our ideas create obstacles. And that's why practice is there, to disillusion us of them. We have to go through the practice and see. That's what I was saying earlier. We have to see for ourselves. That when we see for ourselves, then we realize, oh, how, how could I have not, how could I have not seen that my own idea was the thing in the way? My own thought was the real obstacle. It's only something you can see for yourself.
I will say that you have helped me overturn a lot of those by questioning or whatever it is you do. So I encourage anyone else here to, if you've got some belief or some obstacle or something, bring it up now. Matthew is very helpful in overturning or helping you pass through.
This is maybe a good place to talk about the stages of practice, and I don't want to go into any detail about them, but one of those stages is disillusionment.
Show us your chart, Matthew.
Okay, I will. Yeah, I do love a good diagram. Let's see. Can you see that one?
Yes.
Okay. So this one's new. And, I was thinking about practice, and it's really true that the teachings that we get, their effect is dependent upon where we're at, what stage of our practice we're in. And everybody kind of knows this already. If you've read a book when you were younger and got something out of it, and then read it 20 years later and got something completely different out of it, you kind of know that already. And because that's the case, that teachings are stage specific, I started thinking about, well, what are these stages? And trying to see if I could characterize them. And this is the result. So there's a kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 stages in here. And, a person could be all over the map in this process. They could be in one stage in some area of their life and in a different stage in another area of life. And, it's not always a linear progression either. You can double back and go sideways, and everybody's path is unique, but in general, I think these stages do a pretty good job of characterizing different possible kind of waypoints on the spiritual path. Just very quickly, contact just means exposure to and interest in life and teachings. Enthusiasm, I'm sure everybody here has encountered this at some point in their life. They get interested in some topic and they can't get enough of it, They want to learn everything about it. They want to try it. They want to get good at it. They want to read all about it. The next stage is commitment, which is really, I guess, a way of saying one has to commit to regular practice independent of one's enthusiasm, because enthusiasm can come and go. And then, clarification is the biggest circle here for a reason, because I think on the spiritual path, this is one of the places we spend a lot of our efforts and time, which is just to, clarify various confusions that we have, and to overcome or transcend various obstacles. To see, for example, that thoughts are just thoughts, ideas are just ideas. And what's needed in this stage a lot of time is like, maybe probably everybody's had this experience where you go through stages in your life where, like, You become very interested in something, and then like a religion, for example, and maybe you start practicing this religion and you get really into it and you practice it for a while, but then at some point you think, wait, there's something about this that's not quite right, or that doesn't totally make sense to me. Or you start reading about some other religion and you get interested in that. And so you become sort of disenchanted by the previous religion or the previous relationship or the previous whatever. And you start just, cycling through things. And that can happen over and over and over before you realize maybe the issue isn't all of the things, but it's me. And so this next stage, disillusionment, is something that a number of people that I've talked to talk about. They say, look, I've been doing this for a long time, and I just don't see that it's going anywhere, And I say, that's great. It sounds like you're really getting somewhere. So, and that is because this disillusionment is absolutely essential. To be disillusioned is to see is exactly what I was talking about earlier, is to see that your own thoughts, your own ideas, your own beliefs, your own view of the world and what you think is real and unreal, that's the obstacle. Your own view is the obstacle. And when you become disillusioned of enough views, there's the possibility of becoming completely disillusioned. And for a lot of people, they might experience this as a kind of crisis, and they think it's negative. I've got to build up a view again. I've got to build up myself again, or I've got to believe in something again. But in reality, it's an opportunity to look and see what's really there. Because you're no longer seeing the world through any particular view or through your own self-view. It sort of opens the floodgates, and now you can have the opportunity to do this kind of direct inquiry into what's really there. Ask yourself sincerely, what am I? And not be afraid of whatever the answer might be.
Were you referring to direct inquiry right there?
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's what I'm saying. In order to really look and see what's really there, you have to become disillusioned of all your prior views. Because otherwise you will just be looking at a view. You'll just think like, oh, it's like this or it's like that. Only when you become disillusioned of all those views is there the possibility to just look directly and see. I'm not sure what the question was now. Yeah.
Did you say what comes after direct inquiry?
You don't have to worry about that. It take care of itself. Yeah. So direct inquiry really, I would say, is the last stage in which practice is really a factor. But the next stage is self-emptying. So in disillusionment, for example, you become disillusioned of all views, but you're still subjected to them. So, for example, you might be disillusioned of the view of the material world, for example, but you can't get over seeing it as material. So that's why the disillusionment stage can be a kind of troubling, because you're not satisfied with any view, but you're still subjected to various views. And you don't believe that you can be satisfied by any particular view, but you still have a view. And so that presents a situation that seems like you could never be satisfied. That's, that's the dark night of the soul, really. See, you lose your faith.
Is this perfectly clear to everyone, or does someone have a question?
I'm gonna share an experience I had, and I want you to riff on that because it seems to me related. I saw this presentation that someone made where it was analogous to life in a way. You'll see why in a second. Where he had like this square up or kind of a square shape, and he took apart. There's a part that was out of it. It was sort of like down on the screen. So it was like this partial square, and then this like sort of rectangle down here. The question was, does this rectangle fit in the square? But because of the background, it didn't look like it. It looked like it was too big, right? It's just like no. And then he literally moved it over where it went right in. Said, oh, it does. It fits. It is that. And then he took it out again, and the mind just went back to seeing it the way it saw it before. It's like, no, that wouldn't fit. Even though you just saw it fit. And he was talking about it in terms of political analogy, but I was just thinking of it as you were talking. It's like, that would be incredibly like kind of scary and frustrating to realize there's something in you that's preventing you from seeing what's right before your eyes, and you just saw it and you still can't see it,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, optical illusions, I think, are very interesting examples of this kind of thing. Like that's an example, or there's lots of examples of optical illusions where you can see by the illusion that we don't see things clearly. And yet, strangely, we continue to think we do.
Right.
You know? And so no matter how many times we're proven wrong, in other words, no matter how many times we're shown that our view is incorrect, we continue to think there's a right view, and that we've got it. And this is true of like our beliefs, for example. We think this is how things are. Must be right about it. Then some things happen and you realize, nope, I wasn't right about that. And you revise your view to take into account the anomaly or whatever, the thing that disproved your previous view. And so you revise the view. So you're like, no, it's like this. And something else happens. You're like, okay, no, it's like this. Something else happens. It's like this. And it's amazing how long that we can do this and still think there's a right view. Like if we just,
I got it now.
If we, right, now this is it. Right. One more change, and I'll be right. And we do this over and over and over. And you can see it on a societal level too. For example,
absolutely. That's what in this example, that's what the guy was doing.
Yeah, like in science, for example, look at the history of science. And in science, there's a whole methodology designed to get an accurate picture, an accurate view that you can use to make predictions. And it's very good at that. It's extremely good at that. But we fall into this trap of thinking that the present view, because it makes a decent prediction, or because we can make a microwave oven, or because, whatever it is, because it's functional, we think it's correct. We think it's the right view. But if you look at the history of science, every previous view, aside from the current one, has been overturned. You know? And so what are the chances that the current view is the right view?
Really good.
So, you know, it's just a view. That's not to disparage it or anything. It's a very useful view. It can be extremely functional. It can make a good microwave oven, or, you know, we can do lots of things with it, but it's still just a view. And when every prior view has been overturned, you know, you have to start thinking maybe the truth, for example, isn't a view. And then we think, well, what could it be then? You know, and see how the mind again starts looking for something. It starts looking for, ironically, another view. It starts
How can you
saying,
break through? Because the mind does want to just keep, you know, view after view after view. And even if you realize that these are all just the views and you're looking for something beyond that, is there like a breakthrough moment then eventually through practice and breaking down the disillusionment and stuff like that?
yes. Yeah, you. That's why so many practices focus on sort of taming the mind. Because the mind, you know, its primary activity is to create views. And so, you know, for me, this breakthrough moment, as you call it, came from asking myself the question, what is my mind? And where did it come from? And so this breakthrough, however it comes about, has to come about through going beyond the mind. And another way to think about that is just going beyond views, not looking for the truth in a view. You have to see there is a reality beyond views.
Matt, include if you can in this, because as you're talking, I'm thinking, going back to what we were talking about before, if one were to try and conjure an explanation or a reason why our mind does this, the first word that comes to mind for me is fear. It's like fear is what seems to drive that. Like, why? It's coming from somewhere. It's coming from some impulse or some driving force that's fairly strong and fairly unconscious. And that's what I think, but I would rather you say what you think.
I think it depends on the person. Different elements of it some of it might come from fear. Some of it might come from desire. See, too. So think back to when, for example, when you were little, when you were a child and you didn't know who you were. No one had told you yet. See, and you just and no one told you about the world and what it was, or that it was material, or that there was you know, what the sun was, what a tree is. And see, no one told you any of these things. So, and then you know, people start calling you a name, and you're like, oh, I see, that's me, you know. And so you're like, well, I can go along with that. It's convenient. And so you start playing the game. And, you know, your parents tell you this is your arm, this is your foot. Okay. Sounds reasonable. And they say, you know, you like these kind of things, you don't like these other things. This is good, this is bad. You're this type of person. And you just start playing the game. And there's, why you start playing the game. In some cases, there are elements of fear that can end up build up the ego out of fear. But some of it is also just desire. The game is fun.
What do you
And
mean by
everyone else is playing it. So, it's the thing to do. And then you get caught up in it. And that's just a way of talking about it. But I think it's a way that people can relate to.
Mhm.
If you think about your own childhood and how you came to sort of think about you as the person that you became.
Larry, do you have a question? You suddenly popped up on the screen. No. We have time for one more question.
Let's call on
When you-
Andy.
Hey, you guys. I really enjoyed this. Has been an amazing talk, man. It's been such a treat getting to hear you and getting to hear everybody's questions. You guys really think about this stuff deeply and differently than I have. I've really appreciated that. I'm still kind of soaking it in. I don't think I have any specific questions right now.
Fair enough.
There's no turning back.
That's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah.
Okay, well then maybe we will finish. A couple of things. I put out a notice about the retreat that I might try to schedule. I will try to schedule. We've got more people interested than there are beds at this retreat center. So be aware of that. But probably when we schedule it, some of the people that are signed up won't be able to go. I'm going to ask right now for a volunteer to lead us in prayer next week. Don't make me call on you. Do I have a volunteer?
It's always like this.
I will if I'm here,
Well,
Bruce.
oh,
Kristen, you always are a lifesaver. Okay, Kristen will lead us through a prayer if she's here. Oh, and her enlightened cat is right behind her too.
Bruce,
I will if she won't.
Oh, backup. Wow.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
hey Bruce, can you explain just a little bit more about the prayer, like what that entails?
Well, we usually we do a little introduction, greeting of people like we do, and then we just let someone express from their practice or perspective or religion or just a little reading that they have found, but just something to set our focus and our intention, maybe our aspirations, but really to center us in that part of our being that we're here to engage each other at. So it's any kind of prayer.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It's pretty open.
Are you
Yeah,
thinking you
or
might
a
want to
short
volunteer?
reading or something like that,
Maybe not next week, but I will in the future, or next month, but in the future for sure. I'll be looking out for passages and different things that jump out.
Nice.
Yeah, great.
Kevin, I was going to give it to you, man. No time like the present.
I need to know a little bit more about it before I can bring something to the table, but
There's no mistake.
Alrighty.
No escape, Kristen.
Can't do it wrong.
Any other final comments that anyone has?
I feel like I've missed a bunch of meetings, and it's really I have what's the word, a warm fuzzy feeling. It's really nice to sort of be in this sangha and just sort of sink into these waters, even just for a little while every month. I'm appreciating you all, and of course, Matt. Yeah.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you,
I'll
Mark.
jump in and follow that and say, I guess I'm a little confused because I thought it was once a month. Did I miss something where the meetings are every week now?
Oh, no, it is
Did
once
I
a
say
month.
that? No,
Yeah.
once a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, because I heard somebody say, oh, next week, can you do?
Oh, next
That-
month, next week.
Just clarifying.
These are just thoughts, you know. Just thoughts.
Yeah, time is irrelevant.
I'm like, whoo, I guess I missed something.
Thank you, Teddy. Ever
Yeah,
the
it's once a month.
organizer.
And the previous ones are on the YouTubes if you ever want to list to them, or if you want to redo one of the meditations or whatever. Or and there's a table of contents, so if you want to skip whatever and get to the good parts, whatever you think the good parts are.
Matthew, I know that everyone is on the edge of their seat to know when this your fourth book is going to come out.
Oh yeah. It's been a process. I think by the end of April.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Amazing.
yeah, I think I'm excited to share it with you all. I think it's a good addition to what I've already written. And
I can say that it is.
yeah, Mark's read it. So yeah.
What's the title of it again?
It's called Lighting the Sacred Fire, Engaging in Spiritual Practice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for coming and for your attention and presence. And I look forward to seeing you all next month.
We dedicate this to our own benefit and to the benefit of each other and to the benefit of all beings. And may our compassion and our practice spread to, make this world a better place, more peaceful, better environment. And sometimes it feels like it's a futile effort, but we recognize that everything we do in this arena does really make a difference. It spreads in ways we don't understand. So bless you all, and thank you for being here, and carry it forward.
Peace to you all.